Coming up, the coronavirus is a very real concern for many Carolina students with families abroad. We'll tell you how they're coping and how the university is responding.
Controversial new technology that tracks your class attendance. We've got the details.
What it would have taken to take this place from what I knew it could be and to turn it into this, it's crazy.
Carolina firsthand how residents are still trying to rebuild their lives months after Hurricane Dorian.
From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Hello and welcome to Carolina Week. I'm Elizabeth Holmes.
And I'm Adam Jordan. Let's get right to our top story this afternoon. At least 25,000 people worldwide have the coronavirus, and 11 of those cases are here in the United States. It's a problem that has many on edge. Reporter Amy Cockrum joins us live from the School of Public Health with more on how the deadly virus is affecting students at UNC.
Adam, campus officials tell me they are now banning all non-essential university-related travel to China. I spoke with one international student who says she's worried about the spread of the virus.
Yeah, I don't know why they locked.
Every morning, first-year student Yuki Hu gets online to check the news.
Every morning I check the data, like how many people is infected and how many people like died or something. It just really freaked me out. Yeah, and I'm really like down recently, like really worried about people in China.
Hu is from Wuhan, China, a place recently hit by a new type of coronavirus, killing hundreds. All of Hu's family still lives there.
Never thought this would happen so close to me.
Hu says her family has been stuck at home for at least 10 days.
My dad was like, I really want vegetables, like because they can't go out to buy like the fresh vegetables. So I was like, no, don't buy, like don't risk it.
UNC researcher Ralph Barrick says the virus has infected over 17,000 people worldwide.
China's in a full-blown epidemic. 60 million people are quarantined. So most people are staying at home, they're wearing masks.
There's a big group of students here in America start to do a lot of fundraising to collect the masks or the necessary medical things and send them back to China, and especially to Wuhan.
Hu says she's thinking about organizing efforts in Chapel Hill to support those affected. Reporting live in Chapel Hill, I'm Amy Cockrum, Carolina Week.
A different virus has already been confirmed on campus, the mumps, and many are worried about the virus's potential impact on students. But according to Campus Health's Director of Nursing, the disease's spread is preventable.
Protection against the mumps. So the number one way to avoid it is to be vaccinated and to make sure your vaccinations are up to date. The other way is to use that good respiratory hygiene. Wash your hands frequently, stay 3 to 6 feet away from folks that have respiratory symptoms, cover your cough, cover your sneeze, throw that tissue in the trash, don't share drinks, and wash your hands.
If infected, symptoms should develop between January 23rd and February 12th. If you experience fever, puffy cheeks, or swollen jaws, call Campus Health or your doctor right away.
If you've ever wanted to study abroad but have been nervous about affording it, UNC might have a solution for you. It's a new initiative called the Global Guarantee, where the university takes advantage of exchange programs, matches available funding, and encourages donations. Associate Dean for Study Abroad Heather Ward says the program ensures equal opportunity for all undergrads to study abroad.
By affirming a global guarantee, that's a very important commitment for the university to say that the playing field is level for all students.
The deadline to apply for study abroad programs and financial aid is February 10th for the 2020 fall semester.
New information today about the departure of UNC's Chief Sustainability Officer. Brad Ives told the Daily Tar Heel that the university fired him last semester after he threatened to resign over a lack of support for his initiative to end coal use on campus. UNC had initially told the public that Ives decided to leave his position to pursue other opportunities. The university has yet to respond to Ives' statements.
And the gateway to campus is getting a makeover. Porthole Alley and its surrounding buildings are set to become the home of the university's new visitor center, as well as other offices for UNC's programs. The redevelopment is part of the campus master plan that was approved by the UNC Board of Trustees last May. The plan is centered around welcoming people to campus, connecting UNC to downtown Chapel Hill, and creating new spaces for people to use. The first phase of the plan, which includes the Porthole Alley redevelopment, is set to be completed over the next 7 years.
Chancellor Guskiewicz has only been in office for a month, but he's already established a new strategic plan for the university. Reporter Grace Wilson is in studio to tell us more.
The university has officially launched a new strategic plan called Carolina Next. Chancellor Guskiewicz says this plan will serve as the roadmap for Carolina's future. So here's what the plan looks like. There are 8 initiatives, each representing a core focus area for the university. First, build our community together, which Provost Bob Bluin says is the most important because if they get that right, the rest will be easier to implement. The other initiatives include strengthen student success, enable career development, discover, promote democracy, serve to benefit society, globalize, and finally, optimize operations. Each initiative has a separate committee led by different people in senior leadership roles at UNC. The university says it's treating Carolina Next as a living, breathing document that will evolve alongside UNC's goals and conditions. Back to you guys.
Coming up, Carolina Week takes a trip 800 miles south to the Bahamas to find out how residents are recovering months after Hurricane Dorian. Journalism students Jilly Kuhn and Peyton Tysinger spent 5 days exploring what life is like for people in the Abaco Islands almost 5 months after being devastated by Hurricane Dorian. They specifically looked for the North Carolina connections to the storm. Jilly got to know one family who was split up by the storm. The dad is still in the Bahamas, and the wife and daughters found refuge on the North Carolina coast.
For Frank Knowles, home used to be where the photo albums are stored.
Try not to cry. I don't know, things like photos are hard.
Until he lost them all here on the Bahamian island of Hopetown when Hurricane Dorian swept everything up nearly 5 months ago. Frank and his family left their home to take shelter in a safer part of the island before returning to see the damage.
After we came over here and saw it, and we went back to the other house where they were, my youngest daughter was asleep.
It was so much more devastating than he ever expected.
I just laid down with her for like hours until she woke up so I could tell her and, hopefully comfort her.
In this new reality,
this was Meredith's room.
The Knowles started picking up the pieces.
It's the only bit of roof that was left.
Frank and his wife, Sarah, decided that she and their 2 daughters should temporarily relocate to Morehead City, North Carolina, so the girls could continue schooling.
This community hit Florence last year, so they obviously wasn't as bad, but they completely get it.
New neighbors embraced them with a mutual understanding in this coastal town. But Sarah still misses what's most familiar to her.
It's friends. Like, I'll cry now.
The only thing from home to comfort her, a box of Christmas ornaments, salvaged from the rubble.
So yeah, this was cool. Like, we sat down at Christmas, and as we took them out, we're like, oh, remember this one? And
Sarah has good and bad days apart from her husband, who remains in Hopetown to rebuild their home and run his real estate business.
I don't think there's a magic timeline on when it'll just be better.
But Sarah rests a little easier, knowing Frank is in good company.
I lost a lot, Frank lost a lot. There's no denying that.
Frank has Mike Jones, his friend of 20 years, by his side. Mike, a UNC Chapel Hill grad, also rode out the storm in Hopetown.
We got about another hour and a half to go till high tide, so we'll have to see what happens.
The The floor of his home collapsed beneath his feet as the waters rose.
It was the first time in my life I'd ever yelled the word help and meant it.
And in the months following Dorian, Mike and Frank are helping each other.
To kind of help him, give him perspective, give him, make him feel better about it's gonna get better.
Frank and Sarah hope to reunite their family in the next year and a half back home on the island, allowing their eldest daughter time to finish high school in Morehead City. So from Hopetown.
I mean, that's by far the hardest part. It's just being separated from each other.
To the North Carolina town on the coast.
Because some days it's just like, I don't know why I'm crying, I'm just crying.
This family is riding out the storm that is life after Hurricane Dorian, apart, yet together.
Our lives have changed so much. The only thing that's the same about our lives is that we're here.
Here in Morehead City, and here in Hopetown, waiting for the day that the ocean between them disappears. Jilly Kuhn, Hopetown, Bahamas.
While some North Carolinians were picking up the pieces on the North Carolina coast after Hurricane Dorian, others were figuring out how to move forward after losing it all in the Bahamas. Peyton Teisinger sat down with a UNC alum who started his life in Abaco after school. Now, everything he built in Abaco is destroyed.
Splinters of wood and debris-cluttered hallways. This is the Abaco Lodge nearly 5 months after Hurricane Dorian. Water-stained pictures, forgotten bathing suits, the empty swimming pool. All remains of the fun that people had here. But it's more than just the things.
Those are, emotionally devastating moments. And
it's the intangible memories, the people.
Yeah, I had family there and things.
Oliver White majored in history and philosophy at UNC Chapel Hill.
I started guiding fishing when I was in school and, ultimately made Abaco a home.
There, he built the Abaco Lodge from the ground up. It grew to be one of the most acclaimed fishing lodges in the world.
It truly is like, blood, sweat, and tears of what it took to build that thing and create what it was. And, to go back and visit post-hurricane and kind of walk through the rubble of what once was a really remarkable piece of property, yeah, it's pretty sad.
Nothing here escaped the wrath of Hurricane Dorian, from outside where the guests stayed to inside where the precious memories were kept.
White wasn't on the island as Dorian hit. One of his employees was. Paul Pinder, a fishing guide, hunkered down on the southern part of the island. There, he was spared the worst of the storm.
When I first came up here and saw the damage, it was almost like you were in a theater watching a movie.
A horror movie. Here, groundskeeper Cialan Danny and his fiancée Alicia took shelter with their children during the storm. A wall collapsed, pinning them in. Cialan escaped with his children. His fiancée drowned, trapped as the waters rose.
I mean, to me, that is the most tragic thing about, coming here.
Even with the tragedy, the lodge remains a special place in the hearts of those who knew the fishing was pristine and the laughs as plentiful as the drinks.
Just miss all of that.
The memories.
To come and spend the time with those guys, to be able to do what we love doing.
But this is not the end for the Abaco Lodge.
I was just incredibly touched with the support and love that poured out of this event. And, we take people fishing. It's a really simple thing.
Because of that love and support, Oliver, Paul, and their guests will someday be back casting their lines, reeling in fresh memories at the Abaco Lodge. Peyton Teisinger, Marsh Harbor, Bahamas.
I'm here with Jilly and Peyton here in studio with us to kind of recap and brief us on their trip and their whole experience. So Peyton, I'll start with you. What do you think, because obviously this hurricane happened so many months ago, what do you think you learned going there so recently that maybe you might not have learned had you gone right after the hurricane's aftermath?
Right, so I think we learned more than anything how lucky we were to be there in a time where there were the resources available to where we weren't being a burden. Originally when this was being planned, we were supposed to go in November, but having gone in January, I think it's for the better that we didn't go at that time, just because, you know, in that 90-day period, there was no running water, there was no electricity. The people were still in a place where there was looting going on. But I think, you know, the time frame in which we went, we were able to really see the island because there were these minimal infrastructures returning, and the people, I believe, were just in better spirits.
So Jilly, obviously there were a whole lot of people that you talked to. Everybody has a different story, but what was your biggest takeaway?
Probably that just, even though that the destruction was as immense as it was and widespread, that these people were in such great spirits was truly remarkable and took our breath away, honestly. And I thought it was just a true testament to the human spirit that these people are just keep going with their everyday lives.
Yeah, on that note, it was just so easy, even though this island was devastated, to see the beauty of the Abacos, because the people there are just so incredible. They're so welcoming and so willing to help. And, you know, 5 months after losing everything, great.
Well, it was great to hear from both of you, and thank you for your great reporting on the story.
Coming up, we'll let you know what kind of weather you can expect for the rest of the week. Stay tuned. It's called UNC Check-In. It's a new app that allows students to check into their classes and for instructors to take attendance digitally. Reporter Jackson Lanier has more on why the university created the app and the controversy surrounding the technology.
In the spring of 2018, UNC psychology professor Dr. Vijay Sathi began working with UNC IT Services to develop a way to make taking class attendance easier. They installed a Bluetooth beacon in Dr. Sathi's classroom to detect the proximity of students' phones and used an app to log students' attendance. Faculty support for the technology grew, and before the start of this semester, the university installed Bluetooth beacons in every classroom on campus. So, how does the app work? First, a student must download the app. Then, the app uses the phone's Bluetooth and GPS to determine the student's location. Once a student's phone is within range of the Bluetooth beacon, the UNC name. After clicking on the class, your attendance is logged. But not everyone is happy about the app. In 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that location data is private information. Nonprofit digital rights group, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, told Carolina Week, "We have serious privacy and security concerns about any school requiring or even requesting that students download any location tracking app. Schools should not be requiring students to hand over their location information as a cost of getting an education, nor should they be requesting that students voluntarily hand over such sensitive information." The university has advertised the app as a way to save instructors time and to make sure attendance records don't get lost. UNC did not respond to our request for an interview about the app. In Chapel Hill, I'm Jackson Lanier, Carolina Week.
UNC is not the only university rolling out systems to track students. Schools such as Syracuse University, the University of Missouri, Virginia Commonwealth University, and the University of Alabama have implemented similar technology.
Now let's check in with weather reporter Daryl Brunson, who has our forecast.
So this week, Sir Walter Raleigh of Raleigh's groundhog, predicted 6 more weeks of winter. But from the looks of things, not gonna happen. Let's take a look at our 5-day forecast. Today, we're going with highs of 65 and a low of 47. However, going into the weekend, we're gonna be cooling down a little bit, looking at highs in the mid-50s and lows in the high 30s. However, you're looking at a bunch of rain coming in for the weekend, so grab your raincoats and your umbrellas and prepare for a storm. Enjoy the weekend.
The Blue Devils take on the Tar Heels in the Dean Dome Saturday, but ticket policies are a little different this game. How can you make sure you get the best seat?
Well, Blake Morgan has some ideas in his weekly blender.
Like it or not, the Duke Blue Devils are coming to town Saturday
And if you're one of the fortunate student ticket holders, you need to be aware of some changes to how you'll line up. College game day entry is from 8 to 9 at Gate C. Don't get there before 8 or they'll turn you away. And after 9 means you won't get a randomized wristband. Those wristbands are for Phase 1 and Phase 2 only, as those lines will be randomized at the conclusion of the show, which should end around noon. Phase 1 students must be in line and in the randomized order by 1, so make sure you have a quick lunch. One note, if you opt to not get randomized for Phase 1, you can enter until 4, and then random Phase 2 will enter, non-random Phase 2, then 3, and so on. But the game tips off at 6 p.m., so make sure to be ready to wait a lot. For any other questions, you can contact the ticket office regarding entry procedures. But any plans for the big game?
Well, I got a Phase 1 ticket, so I'm really excited. I hope to be really up close and personal with the players.
I know Adam's there every game, right?
I'll be courtside running the replay, but I'm just excited to see these two teams go to play together, because it's always an even matchup regardless of the records, and I know we're on a down year. So
yeah, well, we'll make it a good year after this game. I have a Phase 1 too, so it'll be pretty fun. But that's your weekly blender.
Coming up, what do the Heels need to do to beat that other blue team down the road? Sports is coming up next.
Welcome back to another edition of Carolina Week Sports. I'm Hank Snyder, live right outside the Dean Dome following a tough loss to Florida State Monday night. For a while, it looked like the Heels could take home the dub. UNC led for the majority of the first, but went into halftime down by 1. Cole Anthony led the team with 16 points and 7 rebounds, but it wasn't quite enough. In the second half, the Heels were up by 2 with 12 minutes left in the game. An 11-minute stretch of 17 missed shots by UNC allowed Florida State to take control of the game. The Seminoles won their 19th straight home game, 65-59. But just as any UNC basketball fan would tell, the painful loss against FSU was not the first heartbreak, nor the worst. On the season so far, the Heels have lost 4 games decided within 4 points, dropping the ball against Wofford, Clemson, Virginia Tech, and Boston College. But nail-biters haven't been the only crushing blow to the Heels, who have been down by 13 points 5 times, including Monday night's loss and the unforgettable 49-74 loss to Ohio State. To get back on track for a spot at the NCAA tournament and for a chance to beat Duke on Saturday, the boys are going to need to step it up. For Carolina to come back in a big way Saturday night against the 7th-ranked Blue Devils, they're going to need freshman star Cole Anthony to increase his efficiency from the field. The Heels welcomed Anthony back with open arms Monday after an injury kept him out for 11 games. Since returning to action, Cole has shot a mere 10 for 36 from the field. The Heels will also need junior forward Garrison Brooks to bounce back after an underwhelming performance against Florida State. Carolina will need a lot of things to go their way to sneak out of the Smith Center with a huge upset. The Heels have a lot of work to do in order to get a spot in the NCAA tournament and beat Duke, but I'm predicting that this game on Saturday will be a tight one. You never know with the Tobacco Road rivalry. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Hank. February is Black History Month.
And it's an opportunity for everyone to honor the accomplishments of Black Americans. Reporter Jake Lawler tells us more about how UNC is celebrating.
Black History Month is upon us, and with the festivities brings 29 days filled with celebration, contemplation, and commemoration. The university's Office of Diversity and Inclusion has partnered with UNC Black Student Movement to bring a whole lot of fun to Carolina's campus. While there will be events all over the place, I'm here in the pit where there'll be stuff to do back to back to back. To kick things off, on February 7th, there'll be a Rep Your Set event where Carolina students are encouraged to show off their history and their culture. Be sure to check the university's Office of Diversity and Inclusion's calendar, as well as Black Student Movement's calendar for more events and updates. I'm Jake Lawler from Chapel Hill reporting.
Thanks, Jake. Well, it's awesome that there's so many different events to check out to celebrate Black History Month, and it's awesome that that the university's partnered with so many great organizations to put them on.
Right, and we're thankful for the trailblazers who came before us fighting for peace and equality for all.
Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.